Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. I'll start with introducing myself. I'm Ritu Mohanka. I look after strategy and business development across EMEA for Glint. It's a real pleasure for me to introduce Sonja Vinken. I've known Sonja for about 9 months now. We embarked on this journey together. Sonja is the head of HR for global HR for contract logistics within Ceva Logistics, which is a global logistics and supply chain organization. It's very global. It's extremely matrixed and has recently announced the merger with CMA CGM. In terms of Sonja, she's been in the world of HR for about almost 2 decades as a general practitioner, but her heart really lies in development and talent, and D&I is becoming a huge part of her agenda as well. But I like to really describe Sonja as the engagement engine of Ceva Logistics. If anyone could drive the agenda forward so quickly and so successfully, the credit goes to Sonja and her close partnership with the executive team, the board, and the CHRO, Pierre Olivier. Sonja is Dutch by origin. She moved to Marseille, however, recently with this merger with CMA CGM. And all I can say is if anyone could do this and share the successful story of how Ceva Logistics has embarked on this, moving from traditional engagement program to a very agile world. I won't steal any of your thunder, Sonja, so I'm going to pass the floor to you to share your successes, but also some of your challenges, particularly in the last 6 months in embarking on this journey. Thank you for being a speaker today.
You're very welcome, and thank you for inviting me. It's really a great pleasure to share my experiences with all of you. And thank you for your nice introduction, Ritu. But what I would like to do with you today is, and maybe we can go to the thank you to our agenda, is really explain where we are coming from as a company. Therefore, I need a few slides with some backgrounds on Ceva Logistics, where we are, where we come from, because I think it might be a little bit boring in the beginning, but I think it's very important to have a basis in place and you understand what our challenge is and why engagement always has been high on the agenda, but only lately has really taken off in where we currently are, and why it is adding so much value in our current situation to have done the survey. So that is what I will explain to you, some backgrounds on the company, where we currently are in our journey. Very important in how did we approach engagement in the current situation, how we're looking at our project organization, how we involved our key stakeholders. So mainly what the journey looked like, where we currently are, and then especially very much focused at the future. As what you will see in a bit is that Ceva Logistics has very interesting backgrounds, very bumpy last couple of years. Not very successful, to be quite honest, if we look at our company results. So currently in a huge program to make sure that our business is healthy again, and the importance of engagement and all our efforts that we are putting in that, and how this moment, from my perspective, things are really coming together from a business perspective, and how our engagement approach and survey helps us with that. So that is my storyline for today, and therefore what I said, I first need a few slides to give you some further backgrounds on our company, because it is important to understand later on what my or our approach was, and why there is a time and a place for everything. Ceva Logistics is international global logistics company. We are doing several things, mainly freight management, and that is then ocean freight and air freight, and contract logistics, warehousing, and additional added value services that come with that. As Ritu already explained in the introduction, we are a global company. We are all over the world. I will not, you can see the slides yourself. So, but I think it's important to highlight that we have about 58,000 employees all over the world, and that's really all over the world. So it's really very international. We are existing, and I will come back to that later, as Ceva Logistics about 11 years as one company. And before we were the contract logistics division was within TNT, and Eagle was our freight company. So we merged 11 years ago. Air freight, ocean freight, we are currently looking very much into ground to develop our ground network. That's very present in Australia, very present in North America, and that is one of our focus areas. Big customers, for me, important from an HR perspective, looking into engagement and the journey later on is for you to really understand that we are a global player. We are really everywhere. About the 35,000 of our employees are blue collar. So that means a lot in how we approach engagement from an organizational perspective, project perspective, but also understanding what is important for this huge group of people. So this is a little bit setting the scene, the kind of company we are. Yeah, and I think that for the rest, we can go to the next slide, please. Ceva Milestones. This is for me an important one, as this timeline starts in 2014, and I just explained that Ceva in its current entity, as a current entity, only exists since 2009. But why this is important is after both companies came together, so the logistics part and the freight part was not really ever integrated, and that was the intention of the organization, of course. And in 2014 there we had a new CEO, and that was also the moment that I joined the company. What he did was really establishing a matrix organization. So before we were organized in 3 regions, clusters. I think a lot of organizations know that structure. So Europe, Asia, and the Americas. And he changed that and really had a strong matrix organization in place. But also, since the beginning, we were a private equity organization. And as we have just seen, Ceva is, and especially on the freight side, almost only existing about people and systems, and that's really our core. So IT and processes standardization was very important to get the basis in place. Private equity not doing very well as a company, looking at at our results. When I joined, the whole HR agenda was about rationalization, cost-saving programs, performance results, and of course, in our background, always purpose of private equity was in the end to be sold and to make money. It was an interesting period of time, but it took much too long, and that resulted in I think I can share that with you very honestly. I think there was a big link between the saving programs, not getting healthy, being private equity, no investments in the longer term. We had and have still very high staff turnover. That's an important one to keep in the back of your minds. Because of course, as an HR community, we said we need to invest in a different way in our people. we had to do that in a very lean way. We could do some things. And 2014 was the last year there was an employee survey engagement, and then it stopped. It really stopped because of investment and cost arguments from the business. Then, in the meantime, a lot of good things happened, of course, getting the basis in place. And we were focusing at an IPO, so to go to be listed as a company. By then, our head office was based in Switzerland, and after a lot of hard work, in 2018, we were finally that far, and we had a very, very interesting year. A lot of hard work for a lot of people, and there we were, listed, stock market, great. And of course, for us as an HR community, said, now that is really great because now finally we can work on the longer term, and see in what way we now can add our value. IPO, fantastic. So there we were. And that was only end of 2018, as you can see in this timeline. What happened then, and for the ones of you who are familiar with our industry, logistics, freight management, know that there is a lot going on. A few big players, and there was a very interested party to buy us. That was by then, one of the biggest shareholders by then was CMA, CGM, a big shipping company. And within a few months, and I will not bore you with the details, instead of one party, CMA said, we then don't want that, let that happen, then we will buy Ceva completely. So, and CMA is a family business. So within a few years, after a long period of private equity, we went into finally an IPO and listed. And then a few months later, we were bought by a family-owned company. From a culture perspective, very, very interesting, but also very difficult journey. And again, what we saw, because of all the changes, very high staff turnover. I will come to that later, but that is where we were. Next slide, please. A little bit of background on the kind of customers we have. You see that it's very diverse. So that also means that a lot of our employees are in connection to big customers. And that also meant something for our turnover, as you can see. Very diverse. Just to give you a little bit of a background how we are positioned. So this is where really my slides with regard to the company we are and our timeline. What I said, I needed a little bit of a long introduction on that one before I can go to the engagement survey, because it's important to understand where we were coming from. Next slide, please. We can skip, I think, this one. It is setting the scene on what our values are, were, who we are. Few things, diversity important, thank you. A sort of summary of where we were the moment that CMA bought us. And of course, what happens when you were bought, and I know that you also know this from experience, there will be a new CEO appointed by our owner. And what a CEO starts to do is build a team that he or she is trusting and believing in. So that was exactly what was happening to us immediately after we were brought by CMA. A new board, a new CHRO, and over the last couple of years, although we knew it was very important to have a very strong people agenda, and not just the agenda in words, but also have the energy, the time, and especially the resources and the money to do investments in engagement, it never ever really happened after 2014. The good thing was early last year, or yeah, 2019, the CHRO we then had said, now maybe we should do something. And he asked me, can you then please start with some preparations, what it is that we would need, how that would look like. Maybe it's good to, maybe now is the moment. So that is where I started. And unfortunately, what I thought by then, because I really thought now might be the moment, I invested a lot of time and energy in looking into the world of engagement again. Remember, didn't have had done that for 4 or 5 years. So I carefully started with that again. Situation where we are, what I said, we were a people business, or we are a people business, a new board, new CHRO coming into the company. We as HR know that engagement is one of the main drivers, engine, to use Ritu's words, driving the business, and a huge turnover challenge. And I have left the percentage open in this presentation, but I can share that with you. It is about, and still is, we were about 30% for years, for a very long time already, and only recently see that decrease. Next slide, please. So there I was, or there we were, because of course I was not alone, in this very changing world, looking for opportunities to really have impact and have engagement on the agenda, because I and not only I, we knew that it would be so important to have a good understanding where our people are, why the turnover was high as it is, to really listen to our people in a very structured and good way. So building a case, that was what was important. So I will share a little bit later in the presentation what it is and how we did that in also looking for a provider or a partner is more what I should say. But it was for us very crucial to start to listen to our employees. And then there was a little bit of, I must say, quite honestly, luck on our side, because after years of having a business-oriented business with a business background, only HR CHRO, with a new organization, with a new board, there came a different CHRO in. And as we are a very global company, and as I started on this already, he and I had some conversations. I was luckily well prepared to offer him what I could do with regard to engagement. And he was on the same side. What is on his agenda very much is next to, of course, making sure that our business will be healthy again, understanding the crucial role for us as HR, the role that we play, and engagement of our people. It also gave him a platform to run a global HR agenda in a very decentralized organization. So after what I said, sometimes you also have to be a little lucky. After building quite a strong case for him on board in a great timing, a new board of directors and cluster leaders. We did a presentation. We have built a very strong, what I think, case, what it would bring to the business, to really listen to our employees. Next slide, please. So there we were. We had the budget, we had the approvals, we had the drive. We knew this is the moment, and then we needed to organize ourselves. And we committed, and that's my CHRO and myself. And I think it was only in, what was it, October, to deliver the survey in December and have the results in as soon as possible, as we were starting to build our company strategy again, and wanted to use the results as a very clear part of the people's strategy and agenda, as part of the business agenda. So what did we do? We are a lean organization, and that means that it is not the case that we have all departments focusing at engagement or different. No. So what was my mission was to really do this as lean as possible and make sure to deliver in a very short time without tons of people supporting me. Us. So in the little chart, what you see is how we started. A very small global project team, of course, supported by our CHRO. Then me as a sort of a project owner from the beginning, a very crucial project manager from our side, and then that is not a full-time project manager for 40 hours per week. No, that was, or that is somebody who runs this project next to her other responsibilities and tasks. Very much working together with the project team on the other side, the partner that we are working with, Glint. Then, as we are very decentralized in every cluster, and we have 10 clusters over the world, we asked and appointed for cluster champions, so people in the HR community who we wanted to build an engagement community with, and who are very practical on a weekly basis, having calls with the project team. Of course, managers involved, the support of the line, and the HR business partners over the world. In the global team, also important to mention, two crucial players, both part-time, both on top of the other stuff that they're already working on, our HRIS person. So the guy in the end responsible for our systems and communication. So a few months time, ambitious, and we committed to deliver results. How did we do that? Working together with the clusters, weekly calls with the project management team of Glint. And my job was really to keep this on the agenda of the global cluster HR leaders and make sure that my CHRO is informed all the time. And he was playing a very crucial role, also connecting to his partners in the board. A very important one, and that is how you see that he involved his peers in the board, is that, of course, we needed to position the survey supporting the business in the longer term business strategy, why it is important to launch the survey. Therefore, we asked, with the guidance of Glint, 3 of our executive board members to help us defining strategic areas to translate into the questions we could use for the survey. We're very happy that they did. They really made, in the middle of everything, because you see what was going on and still is going on, they made time for really a great session on what is going on and what should be important on the longer term for the company. So the strategic areas were defined, the questions were formulated together with them. So I think that was a great start and a buy-in. Next slide, please. Then the partner, and that for me was a very important one, because if you look how lean we were organized, and I really needed a very strong partner to rely on. My CHRO just entering in the business, the first real global project that we were running. So there was really a matter of trust and a relationship that we needed. What was important for us, or for me, when I started last year with looking at what is possible on the market, there were a few things that really were different than the last time that I was involved in a survey. Remember, we are a very blue collar organization. And what I know from my experience, I'm not sure how that is with all of you, and maybe it's my age already, the number of years that I've been in HR, but the last time I was involved in surveys, it was for the HR community, a huge administrative process. Especially warehousing, especially manufacturing factories where I worked before. We had to wait very long for the results. HR role was mainly on making sure you have your org charts in place, a lot of Excels, a lot of paper files, paper survey. So that was where I was coming from. So for me, the simplicity was very important to finding a partner who could support us, the kind of organization that we are. What I also remembered, and was also a frustration of line managers and the board members I spoke with, is then there was finally this survey after all this administrative processes and files and whatsoever, and then we had to wait for weeks for the results. And what I learned is that there were different possibilities and opportunities nowadays. And then, of course, another one with this huge blue-collar population, languages, as we are all over the world. And not each and everybody speaks English in a level that is really needed for running a survey like this. So this slide really shows you where we looked at what was important for us finding the right partner. We do have See People part of success factors, and over the last couple of years, we put a lot of efforts in making sure that See People is our only truth in employee data information. So for us, it was core that to work with our system instead of doing a lot of extra and different things. Why we ended up with the partner in Glint that we have is now you see the boxes in this sheet that we were ticking together with them. A fully automated survey, and for me that was really a discovery. I didn't even knew that it existed, that the survey was fully online, and where we used to have to work with kiosks in the warehouses, making sure that people had time, etc., to do the survey. Everybody now was able to do it on his or her mobile phone, and that only takes a few minutes. We definitely wanted a very simple set of questions. I've been in other organizations and there were about 60 questions. We said, no, we want to link them very clearly to the strategic areas, as we did. And what was also a discovery for me is that the moment we started our survey, we had a dashboard and results are available immediately. So I, together with the project manager, together with my CHRO and a few limited others, could see exactly where we are. Anonymity, very important, of course. The languages, there were more than 60 plus languages available. And the last one, of course, we want to measure where we are compared to the industry, compared to the world, and benchmark data is available. And you will see that later with me when we look into some of our results. Next slide, please. The platform, what was good, and it's nice to share with you, and that was also a coincidence, that the moment that we started and ran our survey is that we had the first time our global HR conference, meaning that the HR leaders from over the world were joining us for the first time that we met, together chaired by our CHRO, and it was in the middle of the engagement survey. So it was just nice as a HR community, we really could show our platform and see where we were with the results, how clusters were comparing, where there were lacking behind or very enthusiastic, and act on that immediately as an HR community. Very interesting to see the platform. Next slide, please. Our survey was live for 3 weeks. What I said exactly during the time that we had coincidentally our HR conference, because it was planned already. As we are all over the world, the moment that Australia wakes up, they immediately need their support. That meant something for how Glint supported us with the help desks. And I was, maybe it was because of the experience in the past, I was really a little bit scared to go live, because you really have to rely on all the technicalities, how we were organized, the platforms working whatsoever. So the moment we woke up and we knew that Australia was up and running and Asia was coming, we went into the dashboard and we were all there sitting for, okay, now something must go wrong. There must be something that will not work or is not able to whatsoever. And that was not the case. There were questions, there were people who didn't have access, and for certain reasons, but it was maybe, I think, on the full population of the 58,000, if we had 30 individual cases, people who left or who just started, whatsoever, that was the kind of the questions that we had. So no hiccups at all. So very different, and that is why I stated why it was fun only. As an HR community, you can focus on completely different things instead of collecting files and you name it, all the administrative burden. And it was visible every moment. And then, that is a learning, because from a technical support perspective, everything was fine. But one of our biggest clusters is North America, and we launched the survey the week of Thanksgiving. So you can imagine that meant something for our participation rate. So we saw the dashboard said they're lacking behind. And that was the explanation. So we could immediately, the week after, did a lot of campaigning, a lot of communication, especially for that group of people. So that was where the dashboard was very helpful. Next slide, please. Our questions, I'm also looking at the time, so I will not go into that with you. This slide and the next one, please, shows what we were focusing at. Remember, important for us, the clustering, and we see that at the next slide, if it is the next slide from the top of my head. Yes, the strategic areas that we were looking at. Engaged employees, the customer central, our digital innovation, and to accelerate collaboration. That was important priorities for our board members, what they brought to the table in the discussion. So the questions that were listed on the slides before were asked to our employees. And then it became very interesting, because after the closure of the survey, we could see what our relative strengths were and what are and the relative opportunities. We had a very interesting session with the people science team of Glint and our board, helping to understand what this means. What does this say? And I will not go very much into detail, but if we look at opportunities, that was where we wanted to focus the global organization and have a debate and decisions the direction that we should focus on from a people perspective. And next slide, please. A little bit more on the outcomes, and you can see, and I think this is a slide or message we use to communicate to the globe. Our employees are dedicated to continuous improve and the way things are done, but they want more involvement in decision making on the collaboration part. Our employees feel supported to try new ways to improve efficiency, but they want to focus more on improving the customer experience. Very important for our customers, because that is in the end what it is all about. And they feel that collaboration is effective at the local level, but they want to better understand the future direction and how to align to those priorities on synergies. That's the outcome of the survey for us. Next slide, please. And then next to the interpretation and the support of these results by our CHRO, our project team, we facilitated a discussion in the board, because what was clear in the guidance also by Glint was make sure better do one or two things perfectly fine from a global perspective instead of a lot of actions and initiatives with the risks that you initiate and never finish, and nothing is as killing for engagement than ask people for their opinion and never come back to it. So what the board and the cluster managing directors decided upon was to pick one focus area, and for them it was, and looking back at the timeline where we are coming from, company directions. Overall, for our employees, it is not clear where we are going, what we are heading. Is it a big surprise? No, not really in a way, because if you had looked back how bumpy the road has been and still was, no. Is there a clear need? Is there a link why people leave? Yes, because it has to do with communication. It has to do with belonging. So our board and our CHRO now as the big owner has on the agenda for the coming period of time, be as clear as possible in discussion, communicate about company direction, clarify for our employees. That is what we can do on a global level. And of course, if we go to the next slide, that's not the only thing, because we have to facilitate that. Every manager, line manager who has 5 or more responses, at least from direct employees, has access to the dashboard, can come up with an individual action plan and is doing that. So we are acting on different levels. We are communicating back to the whole organization, company direction. Remember, it can be that in a certain site, in a certain country, in a certain team, there are other focus areas that can be, but the strategy will still be the same. From a global perspective, we will look into company direction. Might be that there are different areas locally, and every manager is responsible to act upon that. Understanding our results, what we have done, action taking, that is where we currently are. And it's very, very good news for us that this is now seen as, we started this as a project, and it is now embedded in our new HR structure. We have it on the agenda. We have the budget to do it on a structural base, so we can embed it, and the action planning will not be one plan only now. No, it will be fundamental part of our managing our business and our people. And we are already heading for the next strategic planning and how we will organize that and what it is that we will do. I think is this one of the last slides. I'm not sure how we are doing with time. Yes, thank you very much. That's the next slide. So I hope that I have given you insights on where we are coming from as a company. what the role of HR was, how we facilitated, how we came to our partner, and how this now is a structural part of our agenda and organization. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Sonja, for your presentation and for sharing all the details. I'll quickly switch us on again. There we are. So I would hand it over to Leoba for the questions in the Q&A.
Yes, thank you very much to Ritu and especially Sonja as well to provide us these, I would say, very honest insights and the challenges that you faced. We have a couple of questions already. So you also mentioned, or you mentioned that the survey was accessible via mobile phones, for example.
Yes.
And I can imagine that especially the, let's call them desktop workers, were able to participate in the survey a bit easier. Was there any way to get the operational staff more involved into this as well, or to find a way to reach them as well to fill out the survey?
Yeah, we really had a big campaign about it, and then as in posters everywhere, messages directly to our people, and helping, and then really on the supervisor level in the warehouses, and that was why our cluster champions were so important, because they know the businesses and they have the local access to the people. Yeah, and we practiced with it. We tried it and looked how it worked, and it was great to see that it worked indeed.
Okay, thank you. And so from today's perspective and the experience you've gained, so what would you say was your, or would be your one piece of advice that you would like to share with our HR community here, in terms of increasing and measuring the employee engagement?
I think, to be very honest, there's a time and a place for everything. That was I think my biggest learning. And we tried to have this on the agenda on a structural base for a very long time, but our organization was not ready for it yet. I think it's crucial, and we all know it from an HR perspective, all different kind of projects and initiatives we are running, to have your executive support and buy-in. If that's not there, it's a mission impossible. And that is also where you have to have a little bit of luck, and things come together. And that was what's happening. What also for me is an important one is the fun aspect. What I said, I was like, oh my gosh, all this admin, all these things. And in this whole new exercise, we are only facing and looking at our where we really add value as an HR community, and that is on the strategy, on the interpretation of the results, on where we're heading, how can we support the business in that. So it was fun. And if there's one message that I really would like to close with, is that if you can do it in this way, it is fun only, and that is what the heart for what of HR is: engagement with the people. Yeah, that is what I would say is my main learning. That how next to that, you know how important it is, also how engaging it can be to work with the people all over the world globally, supporting and facilitating an engagement survey.
Okay, oh great. And yeah, thanks for responding to this question. So we even received a few more, but I think we would still have 1 or 2 minutes left. So one question we just received from one of our attendees is, how many questions did you have in the survey, and how much participation levels did you get in terms of percentages?
We had, top of my head, 26 questions in total. And the last question of the last survey that we did, and also from earlier experience, it was in the 60. And the conclusion was that was much too much, and especially the link to the strategic areas was important. We had about a response rate of 68% on a global level. We were firstly very disappointed, because we really thought that 70% would be possible. Glint guided us and said, for the first time, if you do this, this is a great result in participation. Because it's handed that if you follow up and you will do it the next time, it will part of the DNA of the company. Participant rate will increase. So it's a good start, so to say. And compared to the benchmark bench engagement for our the group is 71. It's not percentage, but it is a rate then. Or 72, and we were at a 71. So as a start, not too bad at all.
And if I may add, also Ceva Logistics for your first pulse yielded a huge number of comments, and that allowed us to really validate results against the 71 as a score, but more importantly, the 68% of the people who gave feedback gave some very valuable suggestions in terms of how to drive change and action at Ceva.
Okay, thank you. So Ayrton, do we have time for another question, or are we running late?
Well, let's have one last question.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay, so then we try to keep it short. So were there any significant different findings between blue collar and white collar workers?
Yes, and that had to do with decision making. For our blue collars, that was much more positive as for our white collars, and we also saw that difference in the hierarchy of the organization. In general, the higher in the organization hierarchy wise, the less happy our people were with the level of decision making. And we discussed it with the team of Glint, of course, and with our senior with our board. And what we came to is, if your company direction is unclear, as it is for our employees, higher in the organization, for the blue collars, they felt much more of that than the blue collars who really get there. If they do have a very good supervisor, they get clear instructions, pallet talks, a supervisor in the warehouse, this is what we do, time-wise, this is the customer, this is whatsoever. So they are less confronted with the impacts of unclear strategy and unclear decision making and moving left, moving right, because it impacted their work less. So they were much more working. There were different findings, but decision making in general they were more happy with, and that was one of the outcomes for us. That was an important one, and they were less happy compared to the white collars with recognition. So the thank yous, and that's for us also an important one, of course.
Okay, Sonja, thank you very much for answering the last question. I think now it is time to say goodbye. Thank you again to both of you for sharing your insights with us. I'm pretty sure you already provided us your contact details. So if you have more questions to Sonja or to Ritu, feel free to reach out to them or to us, of course, and we're happy to forward the questions to both of you. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.